So survey studies, as I mentioned before, that's using periods. And what is the thinking behind this? It's called frequency. Okay, what we deal with is frequency. Can you imagine? It's very intuitively. When you want to emphasize something on some literature or some letter, you will write some kind of word many times. Okay, this is the main idea. Okay, so when the frequency is higher, so the idea is more clearly. Okay, this is the basic, the main idea. But there are some drawbacks. Let me ask you, when the frequency reaches 1,000, 2,000, is this big enough? Who knows? This is a frequency, this is very subjective. My work is to make it become a less objective criteria based on some quantitative theory. Okay, this is my work. Okay, so we can use two phenomena to do this, to complete the question. One, the core keywords is just like the very important keywords. We call it like core keywords. Often have a very high frequency. Okay, this is the phenomenon one. And why this is correct, you can find it in this paper. It's Professor Yin, he wrote it in 2011. Two, the most important part is the distribution of word frequency is some kind of follow Zipf's law. Maybe you heard that before. Zipf's law is a linguistic quantitative description model. Okay. This is Zipf's law actually. Zipf's law describes that you can imagine in a literature we will use a lot of IV there, right? But maybe we will use the socialism, capitalism. This word very lesser than IV there, right? Okay, the frequency is lower than the most common word. Okay, this is the idea of the Zipf's law. So the Zipf's law said that the word frequency, some of the word is very high frequency, is normal because it is the pattern. Zipf's law actually is an empirical rule. It's not a like physics rule. It's not. It's an empirical rule based on a lot of observation. Then the Zipf's actually is a scholar. He discovered that this frequency is follow like some pattern like that. Okay, this is the Zipf's law. Okay, so the frequency of high rank word obviously will higher than the low rank word. Okay, this is a very simple idea. Okay, so I skip this part. Okay. Okay, so there is some guy called Mandelbrot. He said that the distribution of zips is not good enough because according some literature, some word distribution, the word is some kind of better when you use his proposal model. Actually, it's quite similar, right? You see, it's just a modification. It's an additional B, just like that. It's actually the main idea is very same. Okay. The main point, the important point is this is better. Okay. So skip. Okay. One important part about this is what we propose can be done by computer very easily. You can just call an undergraduate student and write this for you. Okay. It is not a rocket science. It is not. It's relatively simple, and I hope it's simple enough to promoting this because as much as simpler, it can be easily promoted. Yeah. It's simple. It's not a point. Yet it is useful. Well, I will illustrate afterwards. Okay. So this is the straight line is the Zipf's law. Okay, this is the frequency chart of the 新青年. Okay, I have to clarify one thing. The x-axis and the y-axis actually is the taking log, the result of after taking log. Actually, the y-axis is the frequency. This is the frequency, and this is the rank. Okay, okay. the straight line is the Zipf's law. And what Mandelbrot proposed is a Zipf's Mandelbrot is illustrated in the dotted line. So obviously you can see, and the black dot is the real data from the Xingqing. Obviously you can see it's a curve, right? It's not a straight line, right? So a curve is actually better than a linear, like straight line. This is what I want to illustrate. Okay. So, okay, Zipf's law tells us some word will have some high frequency, right? But some word, according to our data, some words are still high enough. So, simply speaking, it cannot explain by Zipf's law. It cannot be explained by Zipf's law. Zipf's law say that some words will be high frequency, but according to our data, some words cannot be explained by it. So, in sense, this is in some statistical sense, it is outlier. Okay, this word is our keywords. This is what I propose. Okay, this is really it actually is a very straightforward idea, because this word is deviated from the theoretical part. So this is a very high frequency word, very high, unusual high frequency. So I think that is what we have found. Okay, so okay, this PowerPoint has one main point on it. Is this the answer? We have answered the question. The unusual high frequency word that can be explained by Zipf's law are our keywords. Okay. So this is the theoretical part. We don't okay. So okay. Is the result. We actually apply the methodology to this Xingqing this magazine. Okay, we have to. I want to say something. The quantitative, the quantitative part, I have done my work. Now I pass the result to the historian. So basically the result the things I want to say in the following is not written by me. It's written by another author. It's a Humanities study. But I discussed with him several of times, and because I want to correctly interpret the graph, right? Okay. He must understand how the graph operates, something like that. He must understand. But the meaning, why? It's like we provide how it look like. Then the humanities scholar is explain why. It's like something, the cooperation model is like that. Okay. So Xingqing. Okay, Xingqing, I think everyone is a little familiar on this. This is an influencer magazine on modern China, and the context includes promoting science, demography. They also introduce Marxism on the period. Okay, so it's actually play a main role on the new culture movement and the May form movement. Okay, as well. It's the count of the one volume. Okay, one of the volume. Yeah. Okay. So how big is the data? The data is, the Xingqing consists of 11 volumes and 200,000 different kinds of words. You're not probably to read it all, right? Okay. And 5.4 million total words on New York. It's a very large quantity of data. So before we you might curious why the computer science jump in. This is where the computer science jump in. Because we have to compute the frequency table, right? We can't compute one by one, and we don't have a program. Then computer science uses an algorithm called Petri. He helps us to produce the frequency table, and yet then our methodology can be applied. Without that, our methodology is just impracticable because we cannot do it. Okay, so so this is the Xingqing. The result from Xingqing. It's got 11 volume, right? So this is the result. You can see some of it is got some deviated value, and some is deviated even more. Okay. So this is the statistical plot called box plot. You might heard it before. Box plot illustrates the the higher of the deviance value. I actually propose a deviance value. Higher than when the deviance value is higher, that means the more important is that word is. Okay. Okay. So we can see there actually some pattern on this finding. Okay. The threshold we set it with 5. This threshold is basically based on not subjective. This is from statistical theory. Okay. So some scholar might say, I want 20. We say no. It's 5. Okay. Some scholar might say, I don't want because today my mood is bad. So I say 1. We said no, based on probability theory, it should be higher than 3. Okay, so it's less subjective then. Okay. Okay, so after identify, this is where the humanities come in already. Because there is some false detection. Because maybe some 无人人知. This word is not irrelevant, it's irrelevant. And this word doesn't mean anything. So the humanities scholar should jump in and filter all of this irrelevant. Okay, so it's like a semi-automatic way to do it. Okay, okay. So the work is done here. The next step we have to do is the finding making sense? Is the finding reasonable? Is the finding reasonable or not? Whether it is reasonable or not? So we do it in 2 ways. Okay, this is what we found based on our methodology. Okay, you can see the 200,000 of words reduced to a list, a very simple and clean list. Then the humanities scholar can be interpreted very easily. This is the advantage of this method. Okay, first of all, the historian tell me, oh, this is a very clear significant, very clear signature of something. Okay, what is the okay, how to interpret the chart? And in the first volume, we pick 2 words. It's country, 国家, and government, 政府. Okay, these are the keywords. And the volume 2, these 2 keywords disappear. It's not longer a keyword. Okay, and other words is not in the same way. Okay. Okay, so we interpret this first. Okay, so there's why the phenomenon change, why the volume 2 hasn't consist of 国家政府 anymore. Is the interpretation, possible interpretation is it's caused by World War I. Before the World War I, the nation concept from Western is the principle with China because the empire has fallen, right? The Qing dynasty had very fall. They want to introduce something to with China. First, before the World War I or the early period of World War I, they introduced they think that the nation concept for Western is a good idea. But after the World War I, they think is a wrong way. So the keyword had changed. Remember, note that the keyword represents some kind of idea. So there's an ideology change at that point. How do you discover this? By this methodology, because you would able to find this pattern on human eye. Okay. Okay. So after that, realize empirism is not ideal way because the Western nation concept, the nation concept from Western caused the World War I. They think that is not good. Okay. And secondly, the Shandong Peninsula event, the issue because China is a country that win the World War I, but they can't reclaim the Shandong Peninsula. So they some kind of disappointed of Western idea. Okay, this is the first explanation of this change point. Secondly, it's very obvious. It's the May 4th movement, due to the May 4th movement. You see, this kind of words is all related to May 4th movement or New Culture movement. Okay, like Nara is like a woman liberty movement on the New Culture movement. Okay, so it's a very reasonable result based on this chart. Okay, the secondly is historians think that there's a substitution between we, they, and socialism class. There's a substitution behavior between this word. This interpret by historian, not me. Okay. So you see this red arrow indicate the frequency or the deviated value of socialism class, and the blue arrow is represent B and D. You can see in the lately example for the volume 11, the socialism class rise very high, and the VD is dropping. Okay, historians think this relationship is a substitution relationship. Ideology, okay, they explain why. I asked them why, then they explain to me. After they actually look closely, they actually read the context on this kind of keyword, because we have a very good database to do that. When we search 我们, 他们, all result has to be printed out. So we don't actually to read it one by one. Okay. So what they explain is, we on the early stage, they said we are some kind of thing. They are some kind of thing. Okay. The early stage, they're illustrating this thing. On the late stage, that the 新青年 will say, X, this thing, X is what, Y is what. In some kind of sense, X already represent we, and Y is already represent they. When we talk about X, we know that it's we. Okay, so it's an ideology changing or emerging. Okay, in the sense of this. Okay. Secondly, we're finding the trend of the idea development. Okay, intuitively. But the difference value is what we propose. I will say it again. The more important the words is, then the difference value will be higher. This is what the concept what we propose. Okay, so we can obviously say that there's a 3 period, roughly, just roughly. Okay, there's a 3 period. Okay, so does this make sense? Okay, historian will say, what he said is a very possible explanation that since socialism hasn't introduced into China, that doesn't exist any clear and consensus idea, this period run like this. Because most of the words is important, but relatively not important, less important than this period. Okay, this is a period one. Period 2, the socialism has been introduced. Consensus idea and ideology begin to emerge. They discuss this kind of idea more and more, then it's starting to emerge. So the second part. On the late part, because of the Communist Party has been dropped. Actually, this chart actually makes sense because the changing point is actually after 1921. And the Socialism Party as found at 1921. This is the evidence. Okay, so based on this, we can explain the result. The result actually makes sense. So we have do a small summary. We have proposed a very semi-automatic method to find the keywords, and our method is actually it works. And this text, what we have to do in the future is analyze more text and verify this method can be used or not. This is what we do in the future. Okay, actually we have already done on the 新民重报, and the pattern is interesting. Okay, but we haven't write into the paper yet. But this is already written in the paper. Yeah, this is all I want to say. Thank you. Yeah, please.